Okay, we're going to talk about Google Classroom. You can have the slideshow once we're finished. If you look at the bottom, there is a link to this presentation, the bit.ly link, and you can use it whenever you go back to set up your own classroom and use it as a reference. First thing you need to do is how to create your own class. You will need to log into Google Classroom and make sure you sign up as a teacher if it's your first time. If you don't know if you're a teacher or not, you will know because when you click the plus sign, you will see two different things. It will have the plus sign. You should have join a class or create a class. If you do not have the option to create a class, please send me an email and I will get your account changed to a teacher account for you as soon as we can. So I'm going to jump out of the presentation real quick and go to a classroom. And the first thing you will do is we can go to, if you sign in and get on your Drive account, and in Drive, you can click on the apps launcher and go to Classroom and go to your classroom. And if you go to all your classes, you should see the plus sign here. You have join or create. And we have this, we're going to use this LaQ bootcamp for tonight. And right now we have stream, classwork, people, and grades. When you first set up your classroom, you see the gear shift right here. This is the classroom settings. So you will name your class. You can put a class description, section, room, or subject. But you will want to scroll down to the general settings. If your class code is hard to read, like zeros and the letter O, or sometimes hard for students to distinguish between them, you can click reset and it will regenerate the class code. Also, if your students are young or possibly not, you don't want them to comment to each other, you can set it to where only the teachers can post or comment, or you can change the settings where the students can only comment, or you can leave it to where they can post and comment. Also, you can turn Guardian summaries off, but for this situation that we're in, you probably want the Guardian summaries turned on. Grading, no overall grade for this situation. And since you're going to make changes in here, this will light up to blue. You will press save before you exit this setting. So we'll go back to the slideshow and we'll talk about some of the other settings in the classroom. I showed you in the settings how to change the settings for students to comment in Classroom. It depends on your students. You know them, and that's how you set it. Once a student joined your class, then you will get the option to add guardians with their personal email addresses. Do not add your guardians or your parents as students. Only put your student emails in there. The guardians get a summary. It's a daily or weekly summary. And all they get is a summary, like I said, of what the assignments are for their student in your classroom. They do not get a copy of it. They only get a brief description of it. The link here will show you what a Guardian summary looks like through Google. So before we go to the classwork tab, we're going to go back to the classroom and look at the people tab for a moment. Here on the plus sign with the person, you can invite partner teachers or co-teachers. This is where you add students. You can start typing your student names and their district email will pop up. Now, if students have the same first, last name, and birthday, you will have to know which student is yours in the district, or you give your students a code to join your class. Clark Kent's been invited to this class. Until he joins the class, I cannot add his guardian. So therefore, you cannot invite the parents until the students have joined. So a little bit about the classwork tab before we go look at it. On the classwork tab is where you create assignments. Quiz assignments cannot be returned to students. Therefore, if you're asking the students for a writing and you want to comment on the writing and return it to them for corrections or for feedback, if you enter it as a quiz assignment, you cannot return it to them with comments. Questions are like for exit tickets, and they're just for general feedback. Material is if you want your students to read something or you're just sharing something with your students. You can also assign students a video to watch or share a link with them to go do research. You can reuse posts from a previous assignment here. And by putting topics on them, it will help keep your classroom organized. Every time you create a Google Classroom, it creates a calendar to go with it, and it will organize all your documents in a Drive folder. However, you do not need to go in that folder. It keeps it all in your classroom for you. Classwork in Classroom, you have the option when you assign a worksheet or an assignment to students, you can give it to them as a view-only file, or if you want all students in the classroom or a group of students to all type on one file, you can assign it to them to work on it as a group project, or you can assign it for each student to get their own copy. It will assign their name to that copy, and they each get their own copy to type on. When you assign topics to work in Classroom, it is organized by the type of assignment, the subject area, by the week, and the unit, which is in modules like this, so that your classwork is organized. You can drag and drop the modules in any order you want. Assignments with due dates will show up in the classroom calendar for students. Your classroom can be a communication tool if you need to share something with your students, like remind them how you want them to work something in math, or remind them how you want them to do a writing in your class. You can record it with a Ladybug document camera, or you can make a recording with your phone or anything like that. Make a small recording and attach the recording in your classroom for your students to watch. Answering a question in Classroom can give you feedback, or just with the younger students, give you a chance to give them just a quick question to answer. You can make a multiple choice like this. When the students see the question over here, you can give it with no due date. Also, the turn in button is not blue for them to press until they select an answer. Once they have selected an answer, then the turn in button will highlight blue for the students to go ahead and press and submit their answer. You can also choose for the students to see the results of the questions in the class. They will not see which student answered which question. It just gives them the overall feedback of that question. So before we look at this classwork, we're going to go back in the classroom and see how you might assign some of these. So you would go to the classwork tab to assign all work. The stream tab is more like an announcement tab, but the classwork tab is where you would assign it. So you would press create for an assignment, and you would assign the document. So if you were assigning students a writing, you could go to Google Drive. If it's something you worked on recently, you could find it in your files and add it this way. Or I'll go back to the slideshow that I have added this in here for y'all. If you click on the documents in the slideshow, it makes you a copy. For this one, I used insert a table, 1 column, 1 row, so the students would know where to type their name and explain to them that they would type their story in the box. And then when I add the assignment, I go to add. It's the last thing I worked on in Google Drive. It pops up here. You put their instructions here. It's optional. You know your students. For this supplemental work, we're not grading. You can make your due date at the end of the week. For topic, you can put weekly writing, and that's it. It's in the LaQ Bootcamp. You can put it in whatever class. You can assign it to all your students. If you teach 3 blocks of ELA, you can assign it to all students at one time. When you assign this writing, you can assign it to where each student gets a copy and assign it. And if you have 3 blocks of ELA, you've assigned every student a copy. Then you will take, and let's go to the next one. So for the next one, to ask students to work in draw, you can assign it this way. And this is something that could be fun for students. You could take and ask them to identify, and this was done to get them to click and drag the boxes to the right color. So if I wanted to assign this to students, I would do it the same way. An assignment. Because I was just doing that in my Google, it would come up as recent. Again, no grade, and put it, and if you weren't using this one till the following week, change the due date. The students could work on it whenever they wanted. And you could make this one whatever science. Make every student a copy, or everybody will be doing the same document. This is just suggestions. This does not mean you have to do these assignments. These are examples of what 3rd graders did for cyberbullying after a unit by letting them do draw in Google. Art teachers, PE teachers, you can give students assignments through Classroom as well. For PE and art, you can send them videos of how to do an art assignment and then ask them to try it. Forms, you can send forms through Classroom. If you send a form through Classroom, always attach the form to the assignment through your drive. By doing that, the students do not have to answer the form, hit submit, and then mark it as done. Once they hit submit, it marks it as done, and it's a one step for the students. So even for the small children, they can answer something like this. What's a healthy snack? You can just put pictures on them and hit submit. They could go back and you can attach this for students. A form does not have to be a quiz. You could even put a video on a form and then ask them some questions for a form. We just did this one earlier. It's not going to show up. Let's try it this way. If you remember the name, you can find it and attach it that way. Put your due date, no points, and put PE. And you can assign it. To create a question, you have short answers, or you can do multiple choice questions. On the multiple choice questions, you can put ungraded, and here's where you check to show if you want the students to see the class summary so they can see the answers for the whole class. So if it's a multiple choice, you can ask them their favorite colors. You can ask them whatever you've been talking about in class. These are great for exit tickets if we were having class, something like that. Let's see what else is on here. To reuse a post, any assignment you've already done, you can press reuse and do it again and just change a few words in it or the due date and use it again. Right here, just to add material, if you want to add a link, a YouTube video, or a file for the students, you can do it here. If you add a YouTube video, if it says not approved for Bossier schools, please go to the curriculum toolbox and submit a YouTube approval form so we can get it approved for you before the students try to view it in Classroom. Okay, and I'm going to not put this one in. Let's see if I can get out. All right, let's go back to the slideshow. And this last one right here is a slides template that I have in here. This is a great way to get students, like for science journals, do a slides template and send them on a scavenger hunt. You can assign it in Classroom and give it to the students. So these are just a few ideas to use Classroom. And if you have any questions, send me a Hangout or a chat or an email, and I will answer them. But this slideshow will help you get through it and set up your first classroom. If you have any questions, like I said, shoot me an email or a chat, and I'll be happy to help you.